first I just want to tell you a little bit about the history of victim assistance. We're part of United Family Services, and this year United Family Services is celebrating its 100th anniversary. And for a nonprofit to have been around for 100 years is really something. You know, these days for anybody to be around 100 years is really something. So we're really proud of that fact. And we've been through a lot of different changes in 100 years. We've done a lot of different services. We actually were the first NOVA before NOVA was around. We did adoption services. We started out just delivering food and coal to poor people, whoever needed it. So we've really changed over the years. In 1978, we got a grant to work with victims of crime, any crimes. And so that's when victim assistance started. Things are that we do. We help victims in filling out their paperwork to get domestic violence protective orders. Probably, I'd say 95% of our clients are there to get protective orders. We do have clients who come in for other services. All our clients come in for crisis counseling. We don't do long-term counseling just because we are a crisis unit. We see clients as they come in. They don't make appointments because we want to be able to see victims as they come in the office. We don't want to have appointments so that our case managers are busy, and then when somebody comes in, we have to say, sorry, you're going to have to wait an hour. Occasionally that does happen because we're busy. We have 4 case managers. We have 2 full-time court advocates. I'm the coordinator, and we now have our legal representation attorney, and we have a part-time paralegal who helps Sheila with her program, and then we have an office manager. So the person has to have a relationship to get a domestic violence protective order. They have to be married or formerly married. This is persons of the opposite sex. They have to have a child in common. They have to have lived together. And this is which makes them current or former household members. They can be parent and child or grandparent and child, or have been in a dating relationship if they're members of the opposite sex. Then the person has to have been either assaulted or threatened with bodily harm or harassed to a level of great emotional distress, which is a little harder to prove, but you know, some judges will certainly understand that that can happen.
Said we accompany every client that we have, and then we do outreach for every victim that is in court. We are in 2 different courtrooms usually. We are in our civil courtroom, which is 4110 for our restraining orders, and then we are also in 4130, which is our criminal courtroom, and then wherever we are needed, we go from there. But in 4110, our responsibilities are, as court advocates, our responsibilities are to meet with our clients, to sit with them, to meet with them, and understand from them what they need from us. So to ask them questions to figure out what they need as advocates. And then our job is also to help them to understand the process of what courtroom they're going to be in. So if we're in 4110, it's helping them to understand what an ex parte is, what it means to come back for the 10-day hearing to get the full year order, how to protect themselves in between that time, how to know how to call the police. When we get to court, we sit with clients before court, and we get information from them, and we give them information about the court system. Then we go in and we act as a support system for them. As court advocates, that is probably our largest job, is just to be a support system for the people that we are in court with.
Our project came about because there's a great need for legal representation for victims of domestic violence. And in the overview, some of you have the project overview. In 2007, over 3,600 victims, passed through the doors trying to get orders, and I believe the statistic was only about 18% were represented. So clearly, there's a big gap in services there. So we came about through some grants through United Family Services, and we started out in January of this year. The goal of the project is to increase the pro bono representation for victims. How do we do that? My job is to recruit and train pro bono attorneys to do the representation. So to do that, to accomplish that, we've had some trainings. We had one in March, one in June, and we just had one in October. We recruit attorneys from every area of law. So if you're watching this out there and you're an attorney, you can contact me and volunteer. If you can't make a training, we actually have a DVD now and a manual, and I can do some hands-on training. If you've never been in court, you can come to court and observe, and I can train you, how to do these hearings. I can sit with you and teach you. So with regard to that aspect of our project, so far I believe we have about 40 trained attorneys. So my attorneys are pretty flexible. When I tell them I have a case for you, I see what their availability is, we run a conflict check, and then we assign the attorney to the client. And then the client will actually meet with the attorney either in our office if the client feels more comfortable there, because some do, or in the attorney's office. And so what we do then is we do an investigation, and we gather evidence, and we subpoena witnesses, and we get police records if there are police records, medical records, DSS records if DSS is involved, and we prepare for the hearing. And we prepare our client for the hearing. We do take clients who have not gotten ex partes, because as Kat said, sometimes they just don't have enough to rise to the emergency level, but at the 10-day, we have enough to meet the statutory requirement at the 10-day hearing. What this does for the clients, whether we win or lose, is, and the goal of this grant is to help our clients to be safer, number one, but also to feel supported. And even when we lose, we are sure that our clients are feeling supported, because between the support of the case manager, our wonderful volunteers and interns, and our two, court advocates, they have a whole team of people, surrounding them throughout this process, which is really scary. I don't know if anyone's gone to traffic court even for a speeding ticket, but it's scary to go into court alone. Imagine facing the person who beat you up and is holding your kids hostage, and you're alone. So, the advantage of this project is that I think we are having some good success with our clients who are represented, but more than that, I think, as Kat said, and I think Pat said too, it's a really important step to leaving. And sometimes that makes the difference, having your attorney sitting next to you. You may be changing your mind, you may see the defendant and go, oh, I don't really want to do this anymore, but your attorney is with you and your advocate, and you're feeling really supported, and sometimes that makes a big difference. The part of the case that every attorney has to really insert himself or herself into is the victim, the client intake, the interview part. That's where they listen to the client's story and really put it together, figure out what the law says, and put the case together. And that's the learning process.